delighted to say Shane Byrne is with us this morning. He's dropped in some Glennis goodies for us. And also, what's this, Shane?
That's a lovely mullet wig.
What's this? Who's going to try this on? Oh, and this is
made for you.
Well, we are sitting beside each other, Shane. It's like, it would be rude not to. I've never tried a wig of this description before. It's actually, there is so much hair here. It is a rather impractical mullet. There we go.
Hey,
yeah, nice and glossy.
Put it off. I did try the mullet like about 2009 before. It wasn't for me.
Oh, did you?
You had a mullet?
Inadvertently, a very, very bad barber who just kind of neglected the back of my head. But if you're going for it deliberately, obviously, it's a great thing to go for. But for me, it just didn't work.
Yeah, going for I just grow it, and it's whatever. I've had the same lady has cut my hair since I've been 18.
Right.
And I don't say anything to her. I just sit down and she cuts.
The usual.
It's just whatever it ends up being. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
As long as it's not too short.
I was just saying to you before we went on air there, we were watching the 09 Grand Slam game back, and I had totally forgotten that Alan Wynne Jones tried to rock the mullet as well. Yeah. What was your take on Jones's mullet? Has anybody come as close to you?
No, clearly not.
Clearly.
But in Wales it's gas because it comes in and out of fashion there every 4 or 5 years. You see a few of the lads trying it. And then along with moustaches and all sorts of things. But Alwyn definitely made a go out, and receding hairline probably wasn't helping. You have to have a full head of hair to do it right, I think.
Yeah. What's the story with these trading cards?
Yeah, so Glenisk, who are obviously the official yogurt supplier for Irish rugby, they have these in their Go-Yo yogurt packets. They have these trading cards. Now, they already have them with the women's team and stuff, but they're putting together a legendary set of cards. And I got wind of this, and obviously I am trying to get my own card made.
Right, yeah, because
for some reason...
Look at number 2 there. It doesn't say Shane Byrne, it says something else.
No, some baldy lad, Rory Best. Well, they've all been baldy, haven't they? There's been a lot of baldy hookers. And so I have a campaign at the moment. If you go on to the Glennis Facebook page, it'll be on Twitter. I have a little campaign going where I'm trying to make myself get on to these legendary cards, see, very apt there.
Hey, I get it. I get the pun. We like puns around here.
Yeah. And so it's a campaign. There's been a lot of. It kind of starts from a low ebb. There's no doubt about that. And you're just going to have to tune in to see where it goes. It doesn't go according to plan at the start. It's very upsetting.
Hey, look, the path of true love never did run smooth, isn't that?
Yeah, correct.
Come here, yeah. Just while you mention it though, do you think maybe your team doesn't get enough of the credit, like that? Actually, the team that you came through on was actually
forgotten team.
Yeah, well, just a little.
It is on no highlight reels. It's on. It's hardly ever mentioned. It was one of the first sides to put the longest run streak, first Triple Crown since 85. There was a lot of amazing things achieved in that early 2000s, but yeah, it's been kind of eclipsed ever since.
Obviously, everything that comes afterwards, when you win a Grand Slam, that Grand Slam team is a Grand Slam team, and
Correct.
the second Grand Slam team is a Grand Slam team.
Yeah,
like they didn't just win a Grand Slam out of wooden spoon, Grand Slam. There was a building process.
There was huge, and it was a real. Like, obviously, the 90s were horrific for Irish rugby, and the late 90s included in that. And then there was a big swing around in the very early 2000s. And we started winning games that we haven't won before. And the push started in November Internationals, where we beat Australia and we beat Argentina. Because remember, they were a big bogey side for us for a long time. And then the success started to go into the Six Nations, and we had a couple of good wins against England. And if you remember, we were going for the Grand Slam in that 03,
yeah.
That I genuinely think that English team that beat us that day was better than the team that won the World Cup. That was their absolute peak, and they just kept that winning habit going. I thought they were absolutely amazing that day. We were up against a huge force of nature that day, but there was amazing things been achieved, victories against South Africa, and then on the way to Triple Crown, I think probably the favourite game was beating England over there.
Gervin Dempsey's try.
And they were the world champions. First time they've been beaten there in a while, and like there were so many firsts and so many successes for us. But look, as you say, the success that has come after it has been absolutely amazing. But yeah, there is a generation of players that you're gone. In the history books, it's just not there.
Yeah, and look, I think probably with the passage of time, that generation starts to get appreciated as being part of the building blocks for what comes next. Because, like, there was you talk about the 90s, but it wasn't like a switch got flicked to professionalism and the team overnight became professional. But you all started to live professional lives. You all started to behave like professionals. You needed to learn the culture.
Yeah, no, it took a long time because I was one of the first that went professional. We were the first to get the contracts in the 95-96 season. Like, I'd been with the Irish squad from about 1993.
And what age were you then when you turned pro?
What would I have been? 24, 25.
Right, okay, so it's not like you come straight from school, there's an academy straight in. It's
I was an engineer, a mechanical engineer, and I was working, and in fact I'd just gone back to college in Bolton Street to do building services engineering and to top up.
Right. And
offered contracts, and I was gone. And I've been with Leinster since about 92, and it was amazing to see the Eaters. We just happened to have the perfect professional setup. So there was a lot of fight back against it in 95, 96. You know, a lot of push, the old school guys, you know, the Alickadoos weren't really fans of it, and there was a lot of resistance. And then probably that loss in 99 in the World Cup against Argentina, just going, things have to change. They really do. And everything started to go a little bit slow, but come around 2000, 2001, it really started to pick up, and there was a huge belief built in. And look, it was built on the back of Munster's successes in what they had been doing in the provinces, and then that Leinster trying to obviously catch up on that, and the standard was just rising and rising all the time. And a lot of the time, sure, we know there was fantastic players all through the 90s as well, but we just didn't have the belief that we could do it. Remember, it was always the last 20 minutes we would fail, and that was the biggest thing that had to change, and we started to do it.
Yeah, and that team in the noughties obviously had a bunch of kids come through who end up being the backbone of the team that wins in 2009. Look, you know, you have talent like Brian O'Driscoll in the team. Yeah. He helps drive standards because
Driscoll, Darce, Horgan, these guys saw that decade through really, and the noughties, and just the standard that they instilled. Like Brian himself just brought on an amazing skill set to the game. Like, he kind of single-handedly brought it, that we had to bring heads up rugby in, because you would go, normally a back would take a ball into contact, you'd have your head down about to clear out, aiming for someone to protect him, clear out, and then with O'Driscoll the ball would just appear up in the air, and you go, okay, you got to have your head up, be ready to take the ball at any time. And slowly but surely players like him, and as I said, Darce,
Sean O'Brien,
these guys, Sean O'Brien, these guys just brought the game forward.
Yeah, hence the legendary trading cards, and there's a good few of your teammates on that as well. This team at the moment, what do you make of our chances against England at the weekend?
Yeah, it's been odd, isn't it? Before the Six Nations, we were very much, everybody was kind of clicked into, okay, it's rebuilding, you know, an all right Six Nations we'll be happy enough with. But here we are going for a Triple Crown. And I think the biggest thing that we have going for us is that we're very much on an uphill curve. We're improving as we go along, and England definitely aren't. And the first 20 minutes of this game at the weekend will decide, I think, the way the game goes, because if England come out and go, right, we're first game at home, forget what came before, let's stop Ireland, and then it'd be a long, hard day for Ireland. But I think if Ireland are the opposite, if Ireland can get in, start well, which they normally have done, I think that curve will continue.
How long do you give it before Ronan Kelleher is the undisputed starting hooker for Ireland?
He just needs opportunity. It probably would have happened this Six Nations if he hadn't got injured just beforehand. But Herring hasn't put a foot wrong. He's doing very, very well. There's no doubt about that. So I would say you're probably looking at November internationals or something like that, or tours, because
ideally they'll have a rivalry now, that he'll improve.
That's what you want.
That Herring has stepped up. I've been very impressed by Herring,
but that's the key to it. Herring has stepped up. The standard that Herring has been playing at to this point to get him onto, he's risen again in this Six Nations, you know, which is fantastic to see, because he knows that this kid is on the bench. And everyone knows that once he eventually gets with that jersey on his back, he won't let go of it. And that's the thing that Herring has stepped up superbly. And that's what you want. That's what competition drives within squads. And like, sure, you can see Standard is a huge example of that. Like, he's been outstanding. But there's no doubt it's because Doris is chomping on his heels.
Gordon Darcy was making the point yesterday that it suits Ronan Kelleher actually in a high pressure game at Twickenham to come off the bench at the same time as someone like Devin Toner. It just helps you with that first throw.
Yeah, no, it does. And like I'd say you could lay a hefty bet that that's where the first throw will go. But it is great for him, and that's what, and you know, for his longevity and for him to get to achieve the standards that we know he can, it's probably good it's happening this way. You know what I mean? Good few caps coming off the bench, you know, a bit of stability, as you're saying, with Toner and stuff, that we can see, that everyone doesn't go, write him off, like he's had a couple of howlers because his mind just wasn't right. That there's a great opportunity for him now to build a really stable footing that he can build a huge international career on.
You had that rivalry with Keith Woods, where he was the incumbent for a long period of time, and because he was the captain, it was going to be very hard to shift him out of the team anyway. But eventually, you do manage to shift him out of the team. That rivalry was fractious at times, right? You were pucking the head off each other a couple of times.
Yeah. Loved every minute of it.
Did you? Yeah.
Absolutely. But that's the way it goes. Like Keith was I wasn't just competing against Keith the player, which he was amazing. He's one of the best footballers that played in the country. And, but I was against the whole aura that was Keith, the captain, the leader, you know, the machine that was behind him. So it was a hard battle. But look, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change a thing of it.
What's that like? Like, at times, are you thinking, this isn't going to happen for me because there is an aura? And, like, so he'd led the team on and off the field.
Well,
he'd taken them on strike and all sorts of stuff.
Unfortunately, it wasn't just Keith. There was 8 years. Like, I was in the Irish squad in '93, first captain 2001, and there were a lot of hookers there. I was twice told to get my hair cut. Didn't. Dropped. Noisy Murphy. Didn't and was dropped. And towards the end of the '90s, I was getting very concerned. I thought I'd missed the boat. Really.
Were you playing well? Did you feel like you were playing well and deserved the place?
Yeah, look, like everyone, it was up and down, but I was consistently on Leinster, bar a few ups and downs. I was playing in Leinster the whole time, and, you know, we were going well. And I just had to stop. I had a bit of a revelation moment with an old Grizzly coach called Joe Mack, and he told me to cop on, and he said, look, you know, stop worrying about the things you can't control, because I was all about, they won't pick me, they. So I just made myself as good as I can possibly be, that if opportunity knocks, I'd be ready. And thankfully, within 9 months it did. And the glamour fixture of away in Romania gave me my first cap.
But, like, I specifically remember a gale force wind against Australia where I think we had 9 line-outs and you hit 9 out of 9, and we won that game, and that was like a massive turning point for us. I'm not sure what year that is, but is it? That's
2002.
It's 02. That period, we played amazing rugby all the way through.
Yeah.
And it's the first game.
We had 11 wins in the trot or something like that. You know, it was great. And like, that's when I was talking about earlier on, that we were starting to set the standards and that we wanted to achieve.
But that didn't happen from you whining about not getting picked. Something that bit.
But that
level of proficiency didn't just come from.
No. And like, that was a change of mindset about everything about myself. And, late 90s in a very, very dark place. And just because of that conversation with the coach, I copped on and I just fixed everything. And if there was any quirks in throwing, and I changed my attitude to throwing, and it kills me now the way the throwing is, that the hookers, they could hit a fly from 50 feet going up a wall in a straight line. But sometimes you're in control of that ball until the last time it leaves your hands. You're in control of it. So if you see that they read it, they've read where you're throwing the ball, you can push it higher, and that it comes up and drops, where everything now is speed. It's quick movement on the ground, and it's just speed. Meet up the top and then down. Whereas if someone reads that, you've got to change your throw. You've got to be able to arc the ball. And a lot of guys just can't do that now, you know, and if someone gets up in front of them, they can't adjust, it's a shame, because there's a lot to throwing. It's not just, you know, chucking the ball, and you can always, and it was changed. It was different for me as well, because I called every line out I ever threw into.
Right.
So I knew what I could or couldn't do. And I knew, whereas myself and Paul O'Connell used to have quite lively debates, as you can imagine, about calling. But like, we had a very successful lineup because I had amazing jumpers to throw to, like as a Dunick, Paul, Mallow Kelly, obviously, who I would have worked with more than anyone else. But they knew that they trusted me, that if they saw the defender was up beside him, if they stayed in the lift and they leaned back, that
They were gonna
gave
get
me
it.
another yard
Right.
to push the ball. And they knew that I'd get it to them.
Now it's timing and tempo.
But now it's just speed, because if someone comes up beside you, the ball is still going to be in the same place, whether that guy was there or not. That's not, because you're in control.
So you think that there should be more opportunity for the thrower to change his mind
They
and
should
the trajectory?
develop the way they throw. You know what I mean? It shouldn't. They're amazingly accurate. They're amazing accurate. It's an amazing skill that they have to be able to hit that little tiny target. But there's more to it than that.
We've got to go. You've been
Yeah,
great
of
with your
course.
time, but who's going to win this weekend? What happens?
Yeah, well, look, as I said, the very early starts of the game, I'd love to be able to tell you straight after 20 minutes. I do think that that'll dictate it. Whoever wins the first 20 minutes will win the game. I don't think it'll change and ebb and flow throughout, because that'll either be continuing Ireland's improvement curve and England's woes, or else England are back at home, and it's going to be a very, very hard day.
We've seen that movie before, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Best of luck getting your card. How do people
thanks.
support you in your endeavour to
Glambia,
knock
get
Rory
onto the
best off?
website, their Facebook pages, Twitter. It's a very, very hard campaign, and I had to do a lot of embarrassing things to make it happen.
Well, best of luck with it. Shane Byrne was in the studio this morning with thanks to Glenisk, official yoga partner of Irish Rugby, as they launched their legendary trading cards. The shot clock is still to come this morning with Kieran Donaghy. John Duggan is in the studio next with Virtual Insanity. Stay tuned.